lead streams. This is Series 1, Creating Strategic Advantage. Module 2, Messaging Your Magic, which is, I would argue, the most important module of the whole series. We've got to get the message about your magic out to the marketplace. And so every single lead in the history of mankind is generated when an ideal client is intersected with a good marketing message. This is very important. Let's have a look at our agenda today. We again do a brief dive or overview, if you like, or have a sneak look at the Leadsology and how that drills down into the Leadsology Strategic Advantage Planner, in particular reference to your message. We'll look at the 3 characteristics of effective marketing messages, lots of examples, 4 validation levels for making sure your message is actually going to get cut and motivate people to want to take action, which are the 2 things that an effective marketer is designed to do. A, to get cut through so it gets noticed, and secondly, it's designed to actually be so motivated by it that they actually take action. We're going to then look at driving differentiation even deeper, if you like, drilling down and driving even deeper by registering a name for your service, which becomes your registered intellectual property, and driving that differentiation even further by developing a value delivery model. Of course, we'll look at action items and downloads as is our custom to do with these modules. So where does messaging the magic fit into this whole process? And you can see that we've got the magic and the market, which we dealt with in module 1, and now we're moving on to the message. So that's where it all fits in. And expect to the Leadsology Strategic Advantage Planner, which by now you should have downloaded and hopefully completed the top sections, specific unmet need and black jelly bean being your magic and ideal client beachhead being your market. Now we're going to have a look at middle right-hand side customer value statement, otherwise known as your marketing message. So that's how navigated. Let's have a look at marketing made simple. We went through the concept of ideal client profile, the fact that they were aware of the need, they have the money, and the timing is perfect. Combine that with one other concept. We can put all effective marketing on represented on wide. The other concept is an effective marketing message, which also has 3 characteristics. We'll drill down into that in a moment. An effective marketing message is benefit rich, contains specifics almost invariably, and thirdly, and off alter the previous 2, is differentiated. In other words, it's saying something different to that of what your competitors are saying. Your website says different things, any marketing assets says things, LinkedIn profile says different things, and so on. But let's get back to marketing made simple. I can say all effective marketing with this one slide. Every lead generated in the history of mankind will be when 2 things intersect. One is your ideal client, and the second, an effective marketing message. So that's why it's so critically important that we get the message or customer value statement, as I call it, spot on. So the 3 characteristics mentioned before, we need to have a statement. Some people call this a unique position or elevator pitch or slogan or byline. Doesn't really matter what you call it. I'm going to call it a customer value statement because this is my course and I can call it what I like. So, but nevertheless, whatever we call it, by the way, this is different to USB and elevator pitches and everything, and you'll see why in a moment. It's far more shaded. First of all, as I said, got to be benefit rich. It should contain specific, because specifics increase believability and desirability, more on that in a moment, and it should be different so that it gets some cut through. So let me introduce you to Max, who has a sales software, who supplies quick service restaurants, the likes of McDonald's, Burger King, etc. He used to say his customer value statement or his marketing message was, we create point of sale for QSRs. Now, if you're QSR industry, quick service restaurant industry, you know what QSR stands for, and you also know what point of sale is. You can get away with some abbreviations, if you like, or acronyms. After we worked the message, this is what we came up with. We increased the sales in QSRs by 25% in 90 days. Now, can you see how the specificity has increased desirability? It's also differentiated. We increased the sales, benefit rich, tick, specifics, the specific market they serve, which is not actually necessary, but in this case it was appropriate, by 10% in 90 days. So we're now, not only are it benefit rich, because it contains specifics, it's highly differentiated from what all his competitors were saying, who were still going creating software and quick service restaurants. A few questions we need to make, 3 questions we need to answer before we are satisfied that we have a draft statement that is ready for test. The first question is, can I deliver on that promise? Because this is a small but very important point here. You have to be able to deliver on the promise. But having said, it's no good being able to deliver on the promise unless it's exciting for the marketplace. If you come up with a statement that you think is exciting for the marketplace, that is highly desirable, but you can't deliver on it, your other option is to figure out how you can deliver on it. And case in point, client of mine, in with a potential major client, very large North American manufacturer who wanted storage and warehouse and inventory for Australia and New Zealand. And my client Grant was not quite in that business. He was doing some inventory work, was asked by the CEO who'd flown, actually wasn't the CEO, but the chief operating officer, I believe it was, who'd flown out, can you guys do that? On Friday afternoon, Grant looked him in the eye and said, yes, absolutely, sir, we can. I'm happy to be back with my plan if that works for you. The appointment was made. He went away and figured out how the heck can we deliver, because this is such a giant of a deal that if we can figure out how we can deliver on that. And that was both, and in fact, rebirth of his business, which then eventually went international. So how on it? You have to be able to deliver on it, but just remember, if you've got something you can not exciting for the market, you need to work back from the marketplace and figure out how you can deliver on the promise of the marketplace, which leads us nicely to the second question. Is this statement desirable in the mind of my ideal client, who, remember, is aware of the need, services to solve their problem or meet the challenge, has the money, and for whom the timing is perfect? And lastly, is it believable? Now, this is really important. Let me give you a client of mine could deliver a 50% increase in productivity within a 6-month period. Size corporations of 200 to 400 employees. She had the intellectual property, she had the experience. After a brief review of the organization, she could, in most cases, state categorically that she could deliver a 50% increase in productivity within that period. The problem was that it wasn't believable. The CEOs, HR directors believed that that was possible, so we had to kind of dumb it down to a lower percentage and hang on to the time frame. I think we still worked on 6 months, but it was something like a 15 or a 20% in productivity. So it's no good being deliverable and highly desirable, just believable. So another client of mine could deliver 100% by end users in the software he was developing, but no corporation would believe that because experienced more than around, I think the average was 37%. So we had to bring it back and dumb it down to 8% or something like that. You've got to be able to deliver on it. It's got to be desirable, but it's also got to be built by your marketplace. That's what an effective marketing message, 3 clicks, before and after example, and questions to qualify before on to the validations. A couple of other examples. This one might be familiar to you. I made this up. In Leadsology, what does Leadsology do? We do lead generation. Well, it's true. Benefit rich, does it contain specifics, and is it differentiated enough? Well, there's an implied benefit generation, but it gets a whole lot more attractive once we say, I show professionals how to enjoy the flow of inbound new client inquiries. You can see how much more benefits that it contains specifics and weekly, and that it's talking about inbound. And if I added panels or people marketing the invisible, it would be even further differentiated. Another one, here is a client of mine, Derek. We conduct market research to improve the taste of your food and beverage products. Okay, that's kind of nice. But afterwards, to make it more beneficial, we use taste emotions to increase your market share within 6 months. A lot more sexy. Is it deliverable? Absolutely. You can do it in probably less than 6 months, actually. More like 90 days. Is it highly desirable? Yes, it is highly desirable. Is it believable? 6-month period with the right. Yes, I believe that is believable. So how do you know if you've got a great marketing statement? This is what I call the validations. Validation number 1 is you go and sit in your common sense corner and you run through the questions. Well, you run through the characteristics first of all. Have I made it benefit rich? Have I included specifics? Is it differentiated? Is it different to what all my direct competitors are saying? Then you go through the 3 questions. Okay, it's benefit rich. It contains specifics and it's differentiated. Now, the questions are, is it highly desirable? Can I deliver on it? Is it highly desirable and is it believable? If so, you go on to validation 2, which is what I call the dinner party question. You imagine yourself, this is kind of like an extension of the common sense corner because you don't have to go anywhere to complete validation number 2. You simply sit in your common sense corner and you imagine that you're next to an ideal client. And ideal client has probably had a couple of glasses of red wine or even a couple of glasses too many, and they're telling you all about their problems or their challenges at work. And in doing so, you realize that they were an absolute ideal client. And I introduced you to Max a moment ago, digitally speaking, and said, Max, we do POS for QSRs. So imagine Max was sitting in front of someone who owned McDonald's outlets and they had a couple of glasses of red wine and they were complaining how sales kept flatlining, they couldn't increase it. And they turned to Max and say, sorry, Max, I'm being very rude talking about my business challenges. What is it that you do for a living? Now, if Max said, oh, funny you ask, we actually create point-of-sale self-service restaurants like yours, then it's very likely that the person sitting next to Max would glaze over. They think, oh God, just my luck. I'm sitting next to someone who's trying to flog me some software. Max said, well, it's funny you ask because we actually increase the sales in quick service restaurants by 5% within 90 days. We actually guarantee we can do that. Then I would suggest that the response would be far more like, wow, how do you do that? So message is critical. 99% of your competitors will use the same words or similar words, and they will be describing the service and not the benefits. No one cares about someone who's passionate about what they do. They frankly don't care how you or I do what we do. They care about it if you can meet their needs, solve their problem, or help them address the challenge. Having passed that validation point, we then go to validation number 3, which is where we market and we get 10 responses. We get 10 past, present, or potential future clients, and we ask them this question. Hi there, Tom. Hey, I need a favor in the form back on a little marketing exercise. Would you be okay to let me know which one of the following 3 statements would most motivate you to want to know more? Very carefully worded question. I'm open to all comments as well, but if you can nominate the one that would motivate you most, that would be great. So we want 10 responses, and most of them, you'll get at least 6 people going for the same statement. Now, you might have noticed I said 3, right? So I want you to craft 3 variations of a potential customer value statement before we take it to market. More on that when we get to the action items at the end of this presentation. The validation number 4, of course, is you're in a competitive situation. Is your marketing message getting cut through? And is it motivating people to take action? Whereas your competitors, the bottom line is the bottom line. And that is your bottom line improving? Are you getting more revenue? And that initial symptom of that is your marketing message getting noticed and acted on? Whether that's a title of a webinar, which your customer value statement will be embedded in, title of a book, the value statement will be embedded in, and so on and so on and so on. Is it getting noticed? Is it getting noticed, and is it getting acted on? Are people registering for the webinar? Are people buying the program? Are people engaged in the consultancy service? Are people, whatever the value proposition is, marketing message getting noticed, cut through, is it being acted on? The bottom line will be more money in your bank, more sales rolling in once you get that right. Now, I want to drive that overt differentiation even further. And as I said to someone who became a client, they were puzzled because it's a great website and they were doing a lot of marketing, but they weren't any response. And I said, well, it's a bit like this, George. Imagine that your prospect was standing on this big bookshelf and your book was in the middle of there. And you know, going to reach for your book, and you're kind of like standing in the shadows and watching them as they scan the book to pick. And you know your book is the very best book. Don't ask me how, but you know that your book is the best book on that whole entire bookshelf. And you're just hoping they're going to reach for yours, but they don't reach for you. And you see that person reach someone else's book and take it away to the cash register. Another person comes, another person doesn't come, and your book is not getting reached for. And the reason it's not getting reached for is that ebook is the very best book on that bookshelf. How do people judge a book? By its cover. Your cover, in other words, in this case, metaphorically speaking, your cover, but the words you're using on your website, still using on your LinkedIn profile, the words on your business card that you might be handing out at business network meetings, whatever, they all appear to be ho-hum for your client because they all appear, even though the benefit rich or brilliant, they're not getting cut through. And what we've got to have a word that gets cut through. In this case, I've chosen Leadsology, you know, is the science of being in demand. It's all about enjoying a weekly flow of inbound new client inquiries. You'll notice the little R there. It's a registered trademark. I created, when you create a brand new word that doesn't exist in common usage, then more often than not, you can register that as a trademark. If it's not a brand new word as such, then you can still register a stylized, for example, if I had something like lead streams, something like this, stylized image, but maybe just instead of a fancy type font, I'd put a stream through it or something. In other words, there was a blue stream or something. In other words, it was like an image, like an artistic piece. Then I could actually register that, even though lead and streams are words in common usage. It can be stylized an image to the point where you're actually able to register at that point. Although I could not register what your current screen right now, you get the point. Another client, Derek, I mentioned before, Tations. Another client, Derek's in Spain. Derek's in South Africa. We're thinking of someone else there, Tom. Acquisition, Paul in London. Acquisition, trademark, pending, registered. So when you start the trademark, or you start the process of registering a proprietary name or image that's embedded in it, then you can use TM to indicate that you're in the process of obtaining a registered trademark, at which point it will change to the R that you saw, Leadsology. Cool. All right, so that's one you're going to have is come up with a word or a phrase or an image that you can register, so that you are the only one in your region. I've registered in most English-speaking countries around the world. You'll be the only person perhaps in your country to have that as a registered trademark, and what you're doing then is you're declaring to the market that you have that is very, very special. It's like you go from being one person in thousands of people in the middle of the mainland to having your own little island off the coast, and people want they've got to come to your island because there is nowhere else in the world, in any English-speaking country, or most English-speaking country in the world, that you can get Leadsology. You've got to come to Leadsology to get. If you want to drive differentiation even further, and this is also a very good actual list builder as well for what we call the wanderers, the 85% of your audience that just want support, simple and shiny, the 3 S's, then you can create a model. And if you go to Leadsology, go to the free stuff, then you'll be able to download my model, although you hopefully download it at the orientation module of this particular program. So a model will further serve to let your marketplace know that you deliver the value differently to everyone else. And I often say to clients, you deliver the value differently, you cannot deliver the value differently. Your experiences have been unique. They're as unique as your iPrint or your DNA. The sum total of your experiences via the courses you've done, the workshop, the books you've read, your personal experiences, your professional experiences, when you go and deliver the value, we'll do this in a unique manner. So let's make sure that we make a song and dance about that, and that the marketplace knows that you are delivering this in a unique manner. Let's not hide this. Currently, it might be invisible, completely visible. So there are some other examples of models that clients of mine have created. Here's part tech acquisition model, the science of tech company acquisition. This one here is tech, which is another model, completely different business, different person, different actually country, different world. And a lot of these models, when you pop up, when we get them made, when you pop up, there's an that particular part. So more models. Derek, I mentioned before, Taste Emotions, it's a beautiful model. Essentially, folks, what happens with these models, don't get freaked out thinking you're a graphic artist genius, is all my clients do a mock-up of these using Microsoft PowerPoint, and they deliver it to my graphic designers for whom we have a set capped rate. And every single one of the models you've seen, and you can see every one of them looks really, really differentiated and proprietary. And again, with this model, when you mouse 01 and 02, all sorts of things pop up and flash around. So it's ideal, as I said, drive overt, that's very obvious, differentiate into the minds of your marketplace. And it's also a terrific list for the wanderers who just want something short, simple, and shiny. Here's another model here, wide model, Dawn Russell in Perth. So let's go to action items and downloads. Now, to be overwhelmed with this, the most important thing you can do is get your customer value statement underway. So to that end, I want you to create 3 draft versions of your customer value statement, run them by me, typed into your Strategic Advantage Planner PDF. So I've left enough space there for you to have 3 of your customer value statement in there. Remember, do the checklist, make sure benefit rich, specifics, and differentiated. Ask yourself the questions: is this desirable in terms of my place? Oh, sorry, can I deliver on it? And is it desirable? And is it believable? So deliverability, viability, and believability. Get those 3 drafts there. Once you and I have signed off on creations, complete validation number 2, which is the market test, and use the wording from it, and then finalize the winner in your Strategic Advantage so we have your customer value statement and loaded. You can change it and you can refine it as I have done indeed over the years. You can find mine. As I mentioned just a second ago, your priority is your scheduled time later for creating a proprietary name for your service and a proprietary value doodle. For the first one, that's a doodle at a coffee store and a chat with some friends. For the one, you're probably going to need a good thick end of 8 hours to come up with something. And all you're really doing, breaking down your value delivery process, step by step, segment by segment, and putting that into them. And once you've done a draft and you and I signed off on it, then we'll get it to our graphics whiz kid in the Philippines for a cap rate of, from memory, $175 US, and he will make it look the sexiest in the commercial world. Next module in Series 1, Creating Strategic Advantage. 3, Choosing Your Long-Term Advantage. And you will be relieved to know it's a real simple. Go well, and always remember, 1 small gram of effective marketing strategy always beats a ton of hard work. Cheers.